What's happening? I'm Jeff St. Pierre, and this is episode 179 of the Adult Education Podcast. How about we talk wrestling for a little bit with the man who, in my opinion, is the one who turned the WWE into what we know of it now, David Sahadi. I'll be straight up with you, especially for all the folks that might be listening to this that are avid wrestling fans. I don't know a whole lot about the WWE or wrestling in general. No judgment, it's just never been my thing to really dive in and follow. I had a phase in high school, like so many other people, and I got super into it for a little bit. That was the era of Triple H, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, D-Generation X, and so many others. It was that era that changed wrestling forever. It took a franchise that was struggling and turned it into a massive entity that will likely last for a very long time. It might be hard to believe, but there is a scenario where the WWE doesn't exist right now. In the late 80s and early 90s, what was then known as WWF was struggling. It had gone campy, and the original interest in the product had kind of started to wane. Didn't seem like there was any sense of urgency either from the CEOs. Enter David Sahadi. He came to wrestling from NBC Sports and brought a new, edgy style of production to the brand's advertising and marketing. Sahadi helped the WWF drop some of the goofiness and brought in the attitude. David recently published a memoir called Backstage Pass, Tales from Beyond the Squared Circle. He's lived a pretty remarkable life and has been in the trenches with wrestling from the highest of the highs to the lows. And he's not done yet. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with David Sahadi.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing?
Great, man.
David, it is a pleasure to speak with you and to meet you. I've just really enjoyed reading your story here in the book Backstage Pass, Tales from Beyond the Squared Circle, which I'm not an avid wrestling fan, I will admit. I have watched wrestling at different periods in my life, but I don't know the background of the story, The Squared Circle. Can you give me the background of that?
I actually don't know because they call it wrestling the squared circle. I'm serious about this. It's a square ring. It's got four sides. But I now work for REF Wrestling. I'm not wearing my jacket right now. Normally I do, Real American Freestyle.
Yeah.
And that really is a circle. The mat is a circle in a square. Because if you get pushed outside that circle, that line, that costs you a point for a push out. So I think that the original Olympic style wrestling is a squared circle. I look at that and it really is a squared circle. That did not come to me until I started working for RF Wrestling 6 months ago. And I think they just took that name off from there. I mean, how else could a four-sided ring that's like a boxing ring be a squared circle?
I guess I should have thought about that. I mean, I didn't wrestle as a kid, but I had friends that did. So I watched in high school. I watched my friends wrestle. That makes perfect sense where that goes from.
It does. I wish I Googled that before I came on, to be honest with you.
I guess I should have too, David.
Hey, well, maybe we discovered it organically, so it could be better that way.
There we go. I like that. I also love the way your book starts out because I did broadcast radio for 25 years. Just recently was let go of my company through corporate restructuring, budget cuts, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. But hearing you tell the story about how you got into TV in the first place, it just took me back to a time that when I was in it, when I was 22 years old, trying to break into an industry that is a sought after industry, it can be frustrating because maybe you're not making the gains that you want to be making, but there is a joy looking back on it, just the hustle and the saying yes to everything and the getting to know people on a different level and hoping that one day it translates into a job. And reading your story really just brought me back to that era of my life. And I had such fond memories over that.
That's awesome, man. It is. And it's like I started writing that out as like a memoir of my life in wrestling. The idea first came to me because I was writing a book and I did one about my dad, my father. It's called My Dad, My Dying Son. I was on all these wrestling podcasts and Tommy Dreamer and Busted Open is like, that's a great story. I'd never heard that before. And that's like the fifth time I heard that. And I said, I have a lot of great stories nobody heard before. And I said, why don't I just write my own book about stories I'd never heard before? Because this book has a unique perspective of being behind the camera. It's telling stories that people never saw and probably never even knew. But here's something interesting, Jeff. It's also a book about humanity, I would say, because I discovered myself how over my 20 plus years in the business, how I changed, how I grew up, how I looked at people. I learned how much I gave into the sport of professional wrestling and how much it took out of me as well. But I also saw the human side of the athletes behind the veneers when the cameras were not on. I saw stars that rose, like The Rock, that, they saw it so humble and like so gracious and so nice. And he gets big and goes to Hollywood and becomes, a jerk, for the nicest way I can describe him towards the end, but an absolute jerk. I saw the people that, got the spotlight big time, like The Undertaker and other people, and just like handled it so well, including Brock Lesnar. So it's story of humanity and how like people handle not just the highlights and the good times, but how about those wrestlers that are human beings that have feelings that want that spotlight and maybe get a glimpse of it or a piece of it or don't even get that at all? How do they handle that? Some handle it well, some are bitter, and they've really got that full push, whatever. So it's just interesting to see, everybody's a human being deep down inside. And one thing that I said the other day came out of nowhere is that every great legend, whether it's wrestling or something else, they all share one common fear, and that's the fear of becoming irrelevant. And everybody shares that. So there's a lot of human elements in here, which is why maybe it appealed to you as not really a wrestling fan because maybe you felt that vibe. I mean, you can relate to a lot of stories that were in there about decisions you make, about your moral ethics, and things such as that.
And there is something special about those stories. I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but just because you were talking about it, the stories behind the scenes, when we're talking about wrestlers in your time at the WWF, now it's WWE, was what, 1992 to 2003, something in that window?
Yeah, so exactly.
Okay,
Perfect.
so you were doing it at a time before social media. I mean, the internet existed, but it wasn't the internet that we know today. So all we knew of these wrestlers was what we saw on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown or whatever the event was. That's all we knew of these guys. So of course they had lives. Of course they had personalities behind the scenes, but that's never what we were able to see as a fan. So it was kind of cool to get kind of taken behind the scenes in this book to learn more about these guys.
That's a great point. I didn't think about that when I was writing it. But yeah, it's like there was no social media back then. I think in around 1999 and 2000 when it started coming out, we called it new media. But it wasn't like, the way it is today with, Twitter and like guys can do their own press releases any time of the day that they want. It was a completely different world back then. I mean, I think back in 1998, 99, I still had the flip phone for a cell phone.
Yeah.
Not the iPhone.
I didn't even get a phone until like 2001. So you're way ahead of me.
Well, I had a girlfriend that was going through a divorce.
Oh, there you go.
Like I had to have one, yes. But that's a topic for another day, I guess, in another forum. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how people change over the years and how they grow up, and when they retire, especially, it's like how they deal with not being in the spotlight anymore. And some people are happy, some people get bored and want something to do. Jeff, that's one thing that I never want to do is I never want to retire.
Yeah.
I want to work until the day I die as long as I can because it's just like it fuels me because it's something to do. I'm working for RF Wrestling right now. I'm editing my own packages right here on this laptop because I have a downloaded editing system here, and it's fun. It's a joy. I'll stay up late at night because I'm cutting something that is going to help shape somebody's career, and it's just fun to do. It does not feel like work. And if I didn't have that to do, I'd be probably sitting around drinking, watching movies a lot more than I should be doing. So it's a great hobby to have. It's a great addiction to have. So it really is kind of like an addiction right now. It's a creative addiction.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoy it.
I feel very similarly. I'm still between jobs right now, still trying to find my next avenue. And my wife will, make comments once in a while, like, what'd you do? Sit home and watch TV all day? And I'm like, TV, honestly, like sitting down and doing that, it bores the crap out of it. Like I need something to do. Like I need to be able to like dive in to I still do this podcast, even though I make no money off of it whatsoever. It's just a fun thing to do because I like talking to people and it lets me, stretch my creative wings a little bit. I would love to turn that back, get back into radio or turn that back into a career, but we're just not there yet. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and this could be the start for something bigger for you too. You don't know where this might lead. One time you just catch a guest or something or some kind of moment or whatever, and like it could lead you into a different path of like maybe getting into TV production or something. Who knows? But at least having a podcast gives you something to look forward to while you're in between jobs. And I don't watch much TV either. I watch a big sporting event. I'll watch any NFL game. I love the NFL, but I watch big sporting events. I'll watch movies, but for the most part, I'm creating TV. So it's like people say, "What are you watching TV?" I say, "Well, I'm creating TV almost every single night. I'm creating a package or like a mini feature." So I don't watch much TV.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that because my own creativity right now is uniquely mine. I'm not being jaded by somebody else because I don't like to copy what Fox Sports did or what ESPN is doing. I want to do my own thing. What they do is might inspire me. But some people will show me packages like, "Hey, I want to do a video for RF, and it's what WWE is doing. So let's copy this." And it's like, no, why copy that? Let it inspire you because you get across the human vibe there or whatever it is, a graphic or whatever. But just like, no, create, don't copy. I don't like cut and paste when it comes to creating television.
Well, let's take it back because you stepped on this here, and I think this is an important thing to know. When you went from NBC Sports to WWF, you brought a very different vibe to what the WWF was doing, and I would almost say that you single-handedly shaped the WWF into what we kind of know it as today, because it didn't seem like they had a direction really when you joined that team, but you got to use your creativity and just fly with it and build something new, kind of.
At the risk of sounding egotistical, and I know it's going to come across this way to a lot of viewers, but when I was there in the moment, I'm just there in the moment. I'm not thinking about that, about the change I'm having. But when I'm writing the book, I just remember things like this. I brought a real sports mentality from NBC to WWF at the time. They were being so cartoony with all these characters.
Yeah.
Doink the Clown, Duke the Dumpster Drozy, Nails, Guy in an orange jumpsuit, but he's allowed to, I guess, come out once a week to wrestle from prison or whatever. He actually got in backstage fight with Vince McMahon. I'm not sure who won that one, but that was my first day on the job. I heard that. Kamal, the Ugandan giant, who I love, by the way, but I thought that he really couldn't speak English. I knew he wasn't the savage from the jungle, but I thought he didn't speak English.
Yeah.
And my first day on the job, they were like reading the New York Times and saying, "Hey, you're the new guy, right? Come over here. Do you have any money to invest in stocks?" I'm just like blown away. Owen Hart put some master lock on my thing, but I brought a real sports mentality there. I remember I heard this so much, Jeff. People would say to me, I'll do a spot in black and white. Oh, we can't do that. And I'm like, why? And I said, we've never done that before. I said, I know. We're doing things differently now. How are the ratings? Well, they're pretty crappy, but we don't do things that way. I said, well, let's start doing things that way. Maybe that's why our ratings are going down the hill. I would do things with audio overlapped, and like sometimes you'd hear me speak, and then you'd still hear me speaking until the next shot, and then you cut to the next shot or whatever, which everybody does right now. Hey, the audio's out of sync. No, it's not. It's done that way by design. Well, we can't do it. Why? Never done it that way before.
Mm.
Well, we're doing it this way right now. And when it came time for the Attitude Era, when that thing blew up, when Eric Bischoff was kicking our ass in WCW, Vince McMahon's first response was to do the Billionaire Ted vignettes, which I hated. They were horrible. They were horrible parodies, and to be mean at the end. But I did a spot where I really legitimized the wrestlers, and it was like, I know what you're thinking. I'm not really an athlete. I'm just a wrestler. Well, I played in two Super Bowls, the Dallas Cowboys. I was a center for the University of Tennessee. I was this, I was that. I legitimized them as real athletes. Stone Cold said in one second, when it's like, I broke an ankle, I broke a knee. He goes, I nearly broke my neck, but I still got up. You think this is fake? You think this isn't real? Try lacing my shoes. And I put the word attitude into that spot. And that resonated with so much, not just the viewers, and then took these people as like being real athletes, that are tough, but it resonated with everybody inside that staff because there was no plan for the Attitude Era. I know I'm covering a lot of stuff right now. We can go in more detail with whatever I say if you want, but there's no grand plan for the Attitude Era. And just that spot that was like so stunning in your face, these athletes looking in the camera like that, and you hear their voices saying that stuff, just was really, it brought, hey, this is real. These guys really are athletes. It brought an attitude to everybody in that company. And with that one word, with that attitude under there, it wasn't sort of the Attitude Era, but that word attitude spurred editors to start producing things with an edge, with more of an attitude. The writing team to start writing storylines with more of an edge and to push the envelope. And that is what started the Monday Night Wars and the Attitude Era. It wasn't a grand plan that hatched to have a media room. It was just, this thing was brewing that we have to do something different. Nobody knew what. I did that spot. Attitude was there at the end of it on the tag page. I was kind of like dropping the match on the haystack, and it lit a giant fire and propelled us right there into the Monday Night Wars. So it was awesome. But again, at the time, you don't realize that what you're doing is going to have that much of an effect. So thank you for that. Yeah, I could say that. That I was pushing. I was saying yes we can, and people saying no we can't.
Yeah.
And they trusted me. They believed me.
Well, it's a good thing for them that they did because it seemed to turn things around. I was going to ask you, and you kind of touched on this, but I was going to ask you what the view of the WWF was from the outsiders. Like I was a little bit young in the early 90s. I was born in 81. So like when you joined in 92, I was 11 years old. I wouldn't know, what was going on in pop culture around WWF, but I would think that a lot of people didn't view them as athletes. I mean, obviously physically gifted human beings. They're massive, they're very strong, obviously fit, but the word athlete really held a different tone back then than maybe it does today. So I guess I would imagine a lot of people looked down on these guys that were doing that.
Yeah. And Jeff, it's funny because I think maybe in the 70s and 80s when people thought it was real, it was more, they were considered more athletes
Yeah.
because you had guys like, Billy Graham, superstar, Bruno Sammartino, these guys that were strong athletes and they put on slower paced matches at all those high spots, but it felt real. It felt so real back then. And in the 80s, it exploded with WrestleMania and the MTV rock and roll thing, but you saw all these guys are out of shape and cartoony characters. So yeah, they lost their appeal of being real athletes. And coming from NBC Sports, I kind of came there begrudgingly, but I'm glad I did. And the reason why is I got hired as the highest paid, as the youngest executive to head the on-air promotion department, and I was getting paid one quarter of what my contemporaries were. And after 2 years, I asked for a raise, just a modest raise. And Ken Shanzer wouldn't give it to me. Dick Ebersol was, out of town for the Olympics, and I just wanted to like come even halfway to what Vince was matching, and I just felt disrespected. And so I left begrudgingly. I said, "What kind of world am I getting into with the way I described you? All these characters I saw on day one." But going there allowed me to be creative, allowed me to push the box and do these things that they weren't doing before, and get them to view themselves as real athletes. I think that carried over into into the late '90s because people really thought these guys, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, really tough son of bitches and great athletes. I remember I knew that we made a big turning point because in '92, '93, when I first joined there, going downhill, it's cartoony. This isn't real. It's like wrestling's been exposed as not being real anymore. But people would say to me in the late '90s, "Hey, I know wrestling is fake, but Vince McMahon and Stone Cold, they really do hate each other, don't they?" I'm like, oh, we got him. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, they do. And the guy's like, "Why doesn't Vince just fire the guy?" I'm like, "Dude, are you stupid? He's making money off this guy. You see our ratings lately? He's not going to fire this guy while he's making money. He hates the guy, but he's good." And they all believe that one storyline angle was true. And I'm like, wow, we got them hooked. This is great. Stone Cold was like a real athlete. Every man, drinks beer and wants to like tell his boss to go, go F themselves. And, it was great. Everybody wanted to do that back then. It was the era, the decade of rebellion, and there was Stone Cold doing it to his boss and not getting fired.
Do you ever feel in a way that you sort of created a monster? Like I know the end of your tenure at WWF or WW, I don't know if it was WWE at that time. I forget when that shift happened. It was okay, but I know that at the end of your tenure, it did not go well when you were leaving. It was not a happy ending. I know your relationships were strained with a few people there that were high up at WWE. Do you feel like you sort of created a monster in the '90s that you couldn't rein in?
I don't feel I created that. I feel there were a handful of us that created the Attitude Era. And what happened was that, and my leaving was a surprise. So it wasn't really a bad thing that got me to leave. But all these corporate people came in once you started getting big, once you went public. And people that, have great resumes are coming here. They're not wrestling people, but they know better than the wrestling people because they
Sure.
worked at, this network, and this cable station, the Bonnie Words, the Stu Somebody's, whatever. Yeah, there's also a reason why they got fired 5 times too. It's like maybe they're not that good. But Vince was impressed by resumes and became so corporate that I now had to go through layers to get to Vince McMahon instead of calling him directly because people were protecting themselves by having like the doorway to Vince. I don't even think Vince was aware about how corporate and how late it had become, and they also pulled back the stuff to being PG. Everything that made us famous and edgy and going out there, they wanted to turn it family friendly. And I'm like, why? We are number one by far. It's working. Let's not change it until it's not working. I changed to the realism and the attitude era when it wasn't working, and it's working. So why pull back right now? Let's just keep it going full throttle while the car wants to go full throttle. And so it just became the work I was doing was creatively pulled back. They're adding all these stupid things like a bonus added feature to like every single spot that I did that's 30 seconds. And that really infuriated me because to sell WrestleMania, I have 24 seconds, a 30-second spot. The last 6 seconds is a tag page. And then they're telling me to put this bonus added thing. Not Vince, but these core people that know better. Hey, order WrestleMania right now and you get a free Undertaker headband valued at like $20. It's like, we're only if you order WrestleMania right now. I'll call this number, da da da. And I'm like, now I have 14 seconds or 15
Right.
seconds to WrestleMania. And two things. A, I can't sell the emotion of WrestleMania in 13 seconds or 14 seconds. It's hard to do that in 24. But B, to me, the optics of the viewer, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like WrestleMania isn't good enough on its own that we're telling you buy it and we'll throw this in there as well. It's like, buy this now and you'll get this. One of those cheap
Yeah.
ads on TV. It's just like, I thought it cheapened WrestleMania and everything else, and I lost that fight. So I just became a little creatively burnt out, just a little frustrated with how it was corporate wise. I was still great with Vince, with Kevin Dunn, the hierarchy there, the core people that were there through all the years, but I just need a break. And when I told Kevin Dunn that, he didn't believe it. And I just felt burnt out. I wanted to get a reset, catch my breath. I didn't know how long I was going to be gone for. Kevin Dunn said, take 90 days. I said, I can't. He goes, why? I'll pay you. I said, because if you say exactly 90, I'm going to count down 89, 88,
Yeah.
87. I'm coming back October 1st. I said, I might come back in 2 months or 6 weeks, might come back in 4 months. I don't know. I just need to get away, clear my head, take a deep breath. I just got divorced too. And so he said, all right, let's just say 6 weeks, first Friday in July. But he didn't tell Vince until the final week. And that's how it got ugly. That's when it got ugly,
Yeah.
was the final week. Everything was fine. Kevin told me not to tell anybody, not even my own staff. And I find out on the final week that he's telling the entire staff, including mine, while I'm out there in California shooting my final spot with Brock Lesnar when he F5s a shark on the beach. And I was just outraged. I didn't get a chance to tell my own staff for 5 weeks. I kept my mouth shut. I held my head in the bag, bargain. And now Kevin's telling everybody, including Vince. So in Vince's mind, I didn't got a chance to say goodbye to Vince. Vince was great to me, but Vince probably thinks I quit like with a week notice when I didn't. And it wasn't really quitting. It was just like, hey, I need to get away for a while. I don't know how long. That's all. I needed a journey of self-discovery. I need to find my spirit, my soul. Kind of like somebody's in between jobs right now,
Yeah.
finding out what you really want to do. I was kind of in between jobs right then. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I found myself on this journey, and I found out what my life's calling was, and it was the greatest thing I ever did. I was age 41. I just said, F it. I don't care if I don't make money for 6 months a year. I'm just gonna go out there, and it was a great time traveling across country by car. We don't have an agenda. You just want to get to the West Coast and eventually Hawaii. So you don't care if you do it in 2 months or 3 months. It was awesome.
I have
I
always wanted
learned
to do
so
that.
much on that time. Yeah. Still can.
Yeah, that's
You have
true.
to get clear with your wife. That's the only thing.
That's
You
true.
have to,
Yeah,
you know.
the wife and the kid. I think we'll have
Oh
quite a
yeah. Well,
drive.
no. There's no go. You have the kid there. No, it's something you want to do on your own. Not with a child especially. But yeah, you're stuck for 20 years with a child, until you get that child through college. So
It's funny, when I got let go from my job, it was back in October, and we have two very close friends who packed everything up and moved to Spain a couple of years ago. And we have visited them there before, and they said, hey, why don't you come stay with us for like a week or two? And I was like, at the time, I was like, I have a 4-year-old daughter. There's no way I can just leave the country and leave her with my wife right now. She will kill me if I do that. But oh my gosh, the idea of just being like, okay, I'm free for a little bit. I just need to go like clear my head and kind of refresh after doing one thing for 25 years of my life, and then just having it ripped out for no reason, just here, we got to cut this much money. You make that much money, you're gone kind of thing. So yeah, it would have been quite an exciting time to do, but yeah, there's responsibilities you have in life that you can't do it.
yeah.
I want to go back to, you talk about WWE wanting to go PG, and this is my one real story. I had a phase of WWE in the 90s. It was the Stone Cold, Degeneration X, all that. It was that era, which I think a lot of people in my age group would probably, identify with. One of my
Were
neighbors.
you in college back then?
No, I was in high school. So I left high school in
So that was,
99.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was our big audience there. It was
Yeah.
like the people that were in high school and college.
Yep.
And it was like the demo that every advertiser wants to get to, which was us at the time, because we were cool. We were doing things that never were done before. And people thought it was real.
It was crazy. I ended up going to a few events because my neighbor's dad had box seats at the Boston Arena. So I got to go to a few events, which is what inspired me to be into it, because I got to see it. Like, I still to this day would not watch wrestling on TV, not because I have an issue with it. I just don't watch it on TV. But if I got tickets to an event, I will go, I will cheer, I will scream, like I will play with the crowd. Like, okay, the crowd doesn't like this guy, I am in. I don't like him either. We are going to do this. It's such a fun environment to be at. But anyway, I got a Degeneration
But
X
I
t-shirt.
don't like it live though. But
That's
I don't like
that's
it
funny that you're on the other
because
side of that.
I like the commentary and I like the camera cutting. And when I see somebody, inadvertently throw a punch that misses by a foot and the other guy's still selling it, I'm just like, that one punch and a great match just kills the whole thing for me. If I see that, live. And that happens with the wrestlers that aren't the top tier wrestlers, but you'll see like a punch that, especially like the MLW level or whatever, the lower levels. You see a guy that misses a punch by now, the other guy's still selling it. It's like, don't sell it. Just like say, oh, you missed, hit me again or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's just, I see that live when I'm there in person. I just don't like it.
But I got a Degeneration X t-shirt and I got thrown out of
Awesome,
school for wearing it
awesome.
the next day because I forget what it said,
Oh.
but it said the phrase "suck it" on it.
Suck
And
it, yeah,
I
suck it.
ended up getting sent home from school for that. It was the one time I got sent home for doing something bad, if you will.
Well,
at
here's
school.
a funny story. They had to stop doing this when they said suck it because they're at the groin.
Yes, yeah.
So instead, they turned it into the X.
The X, yeah.
And that was okay then. And that was a very genius sort of came up with that idea. But that was, it went from this to this.
Let's go back to your
Same
sabbatical.
groin area.
I want to go back to
Sure.
your sabbatical for a second because you got a call from Jeff Jarrett on your sabbatical, and he wants to talk to you about TNA wrestling. And you say to him, and I forget the exact quote, but you say, if I ever go back to TV, it is not going to be for professional wrestling. Now, looking back on that, the rest of your career, the next 20-something years, has been in professional wrestling. So that's an interesting statement to have at that time because it seems like you found your calling.
No, yeah, but now back in real sports again. And I don't want to get teary-eyed about talking about my dad because he wanted me to get back in real sports before he passed. And I got back in 2 years after he passed. But I'm back in a real sport right now. Real American Freestyle we are blowing up. Have you ever heard anything about I'm going to answer your question, but have you heard anything about the recent brawl that happened last week?
I did not. I've heard of the league, but I have not heard
Yes.
about this brawl.
Well, we had a match between Armand Zirkanian, who's a UFC star, and this guy George, who's a social media influencer. And he's a good wrestler. He's not an Olympic style wrestler, but He's a big social influencer. He has over 1 million followers, and he won many collegiate, level, trophies and awards. And they didn't like each other. And at the end of the match, it broke into a brawl. I kid you not, Jeff. Just got the conference call that we have every single Monday. We were trending number one for 3 straight days above the Trump-Iran war. We were trending as a number one professional sport league for, I think, 4 days because everybody's picking up on this. UFC, Dana White, everybody's mentioned that. It got 750 billion impressions worldwide. There's only 8 billion people, I think, on the planet, or 9 billion. 750 billion because every day people, it's still live and active right now. Talent like Logan Paul and people coming up there and they're challenging everybody else. They're having their say on what happened there and who is right and who is wrong. And it's just covered everywhere. And it's like, that's our viral moments. But the great thing about RFS 2 is that we're at the Mullet Arena, and we're only 6 months in. It's our sixth show, and we sold that out. We sold more tickets there than AEW and TNA did the same venue. Combined, we sold more tickets. So it's really taken off. And what I'm trying to bring with Eric Bischoff is an entertainment value to that. But getting back to what you said about wrestling, now the wrestling's a real sport. But yeah, I didn't want to get back into professional wrestling, but it was a year when Jeff called me. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to build companies or build something new. So Jeff called me when TNA was at that stage where they had that weekly Wednesday 2 hour special for $9.95.
Okay.
They were losing money that they were stopping that. They also had a 1 hour deal on Fox Sports Net that was ending in June. They were paying $30,000 a week for that Friday afternoon time slot of 3. They were losing money on that because they weren't selling the advertising revenue. So the last gasp was to go to this monthly pay-per-view format and hopefully get a TV deal. And the first pay-per-view was Victory Road. So I joined Jeff just to help launch for 3 months. Victory Road. It was only going to be a 3-month thing. And I was willing to go back to WWE during that year that I took off, but I said I want to start, with 3 or 4 months. Part time at first, take a couple weeks off, then jump back in 3 or 4 months, then get in full time when ease my way back in. And Kevin Dunn and Big John Gaburick both said twice, different occasions, no, it's full time or no time. And Jeff offered me part time to start, and it's like great, fine, I'll do it. 3 months. I'm launching a new entity, a company that's now going monthly to pay per view. And we did a little PR stunt where on our first show, Victory Road, Hulk Hogan was there. We got footage of him. Randy Savage was there. We had our first monthly big pay-per-view event that was there. And WWE was there 2 days later, filming a commercial. So we tried to shoot some footage. We got nothing. It was a nothing burger. But man, it pissed off WWE. It's called the Cookies and Balloons Incident. And they got so mad that I got hostile emails and phone calls from people I thought were friends. I mean, it's hate-laced. Since we did nothing. It's a nothing burger. We didn't get a talent out there, but they were so incensed that, David Sahadi would do something like that. It's a PR stunt. It wasn't meant to hurt them. It was meant to put us over as like the epicenter. Everybody's here within a 2-day span. And because of that, during the holidays in December, they took away my dad's Legends paycheck. And that hurt my father because he was just making Social Security and that Legends paycheck, $3,000 a month with everything to him. I'm not going to get angry this time because I did a podcast last night. I'm angry. I'm not going to start cussing, but damn it, man. Even you can see my eyes. When you mess with my father, you're messing with me. And to get back at me for doing that by taking my dad's livelihood, his Legends check that he earned from Vince Sr., my dad had nothing to do with this at all. I mean, shame on you. As Mike Johnson said, WWE Insider, that's pure evil what they did to my father, pure evil. So that's when I got back in full time. That's when I called Jeff Jarrett a couple of days later. I'm like, Jeff, do you want me to come on? Do you want to come back full time? I'll look for it too. Yeah, okay, good. I'll get you a TV deal too. And sure enough, W was leaving Spike TV then. I knew Kevin Kay, the president there. We had a meeting and a TV deal happens. And now I was inspired. So it wasn't just pro wrestling to me, it was personal. And I was helping build this company to relevancy because they never gained that in their first 2 years. They were losing money. They were going out of business. And getting that Spike TV deal gave them relevancy. And the delicious thing was, Jeff, was that for the final 4 months that Raw was on there, I'm cutting promos for TNA Wrestling based on stuff that we're shooting at the monthlies and that we had the archival footage. And we're airing it during Raw on Spike. And they're calling Spike TV and saying, stop airing those spots about our competitor. I'm like, hey, it's on our network, and you're leaving us for our competitors. Don't tell us what ads we can run during Raw because you're on our network and we're paying you to be on our network. And that was like delicious irony getting back to them that way. And you can make the case that if they didn't do that to my father, TNA would not be around right now. I don't know. Again, that's not egotistical, but it's just like all this domino effect of just a 3-month gig I wanted. that WWE wouldn't give me. Then then screw my dad after the 3 month gig, and then me coming back there, and me had just happened to know Kevin Kay, who's the president of Spike TV at the time, all led to a TV deal and led to us becoming relevant again. It's like those five things had to happen for that us to get to that point right there. So they kind of burnt themselves by doing that to my dad because they actually gave TNA relevance for about 10 years, and it's got relevance again right now. But there was a dark period where TNA meant nothing.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
It's funny. I bet a lot of people that wanted to talk to you about this book and interview you in this time were wrestling fans and came to you from that angle. I love the media, like insider stuff. Like hearing you talk about some of these things, it's just like, I don't know, like it's not bringing me joy because I'm not happy bad things happen to you and your dad, but like the conflicts behind the scenes in media, hearing you talk about like how much time you'd have in a spot. Like, I'm like, oh, I can relate to all of this from my time in media. Like, I don't think, but the average person doesn't know what goes on behind the scenes of all these shows and stations, whatever that you have.
And that's the beauty of the book because most books are wrestling memoirs written by wrestlers, and they're all about wrestling stories and their matches and what goes on. It's what people have seen on TV. And pretty much 99% of stuff that I talk about is not what people have seen on TV, except for the spots that I created. But I'm talking about how I created them and the problems that we had in producing these spots when people got hurt. And, the stuff in boardrooms about, like, what we can do with Stone Cold is becoming popular. Vince wanted to turn him back into, like, the ringmaster gimmick again because they didn't want him to be, like, cheery. They wanted him to be booed because we need heels. And Kevin Dunn telling Vince, because we're all shocked in this meeting, no, the crowd likes us. Let's let the crowd take us where they want Stone Cold Steve Austin to go. Let's not fight the crowd. Let's go with the crowd this time. Let's go with the audience. And there's all these things where, like, things almost didn't happen because Vince wanted to kill them, but we talked him out of it. And bad things that people wanted to do, we talked them out of becoming as well, including in the spot, the Super Bowl commercial I wanted to do as a follow-up with Rodney Dangerfield, and that got killed 2 days beforehand. And because a certain talent did not feel they were featured in that spot. And they wanted the spot to be all about them. And I ended up having to do something that was different and a lot less, creative than what the original Rodney Dangerfield spot was. But I was told at that time, 2 days beforehand, the town was ready there in LA. We're at a Hollywood soundstage. This kind of stuff you like hearing. It's already paid for. 99% of it. It's like the budget was $490,000. We already were committed to like $475,000 of it. So I think it was like craft services and meals was the only thing that we had to do because everybody was contracted. We spent 2.5 weeks creating these sets, and we had the special effects guys from Armageddon, the movie back then. That was like really good, and it gets killed. And I'm like, Kevin, talent's here. We spent this money. Let's just shoot it anyway. Nope, Vince wants it dead. Somebody got in his ear. I said, but it's not going to cost us anything. They're done shooting SmackDown on Tuesday. This is Wednesday. Let's just shoot it. Nope, sorry, it's dead. They want to do a spot with news clippings and how great we are over the past year. And I'm just like, this is Super Bowl, news clippings. You want to be entertained. What's more entertaining than killing Rodney Dangerfield on national TV? I mean, people be talking about that for years, I thought. We killed Rodney Dangerfield during the Super Bowl on national TV, and they want to do spot press clippings. And that's also when I started to get disenchanted right there, as you said, because I'm sure somebody else besides the wrestler got in Vince's head about that. Hey, let's show the world how great we are. Nobody cares during the Super Bowl, dude. They're just like, they're all having parties, they're barely watching the commercials, they're all drinking. But if you do something funny that catches their attention, and here it is seeing Rodney Dangerfield like in the first 5 seconds of a spot, people are going to stop and watch for a second,
Yeah, looking back on it, this is a loaded question for you because you have quite an illustrious career. But looking back on it, is there a moment that you still think about and go, wow, I can't believe I was a part of that?
I don't think so because one thing I tell people, and I'm looking away right now because I'm thinking deeply, but this is a life question too. I tell people I have no regrets and that I've never made a mistake in my life because I never have. I mean, I've made 10,000 mistakes. We all have. But every mistake I've learned from. And if I've hurt somebody inadvertently or done something that was wrong, I've learned from that not to do that again. If I regretted something at the time, I learned never to do that again. So I don't think I have any regrets. I think the universe, I don't want to say God, I want to say the universe, that's what I call it, just has conspired for me to have my ups, the occasional downs and the lumps and the bumps and the ups again, by design. I'm just like, I feel as though ever since I took that sabbatical, Jeff, when I was doing everything, corporate, up until then, corporate, I mean like, the schedule and everything else, my ideas outside the box. I felt like I was trying to force things, whereas when I took that sabbatical, I just, hey, I like this town land, I'm going to stay here for a couple of days, or I don't like this town, I'm going to leave the next day. I just go with the river of life right now. So I have no regrets about anything. I mean, I wish, my dad was still alive. I wish my girlfriend, that was my soulmate of 6 years, wasn't, didn't have a mental illness and things like that. But those things you can't help. So I have no regrets at all.
I love to hear that, David, and I hope that my quote-unquote sabbatical that I'm in right now can turn into something beautiful like what you've been able to turn yours into.
Oh, you're not in a sabbatical, brother. You have the hardest job of your life right now for the next 14 years, probably.
Oh, yes, well.
Wait till she's in her teens. You're going to be nervous every single night, which is not
I know.
time.
Thankfully, I still have a few more years left till we get there, but...
Yeah, well, maybe you plan a little sabbatical mini one right now, and then you plan a big one, which is off to college.
There we go. That's the game plan. David, it has been an absolute pleasure, man. Again, the book is called Backstage Pass, Tales from Beyond the Squared Circle. Where do people go if they want to find out more about you or if they want to find out more about the book? Is there a good place to follow you?
Yeah, you can just follow me on Instagram at Sahadi3, but just, you can Google Backstage Pass and it'll pop up everywhere. The easiest place to buy it is Amazon, of course, but, just Google it, pop up. It'll pop anywhere, buy it wherever you want to, because it's more than just wrestling. It's about, if you've ever, felt pain, heartbreak, loss, whatever, you will find yourself somewhere in the pages of this book. It's wrestling. It's told through the world of wrestling, but it's more than just wrestling. It's bigger than wrestling.
I absolutely agree. David, it's a great book. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, man. I thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the best of luck as
Likewise,
you continue.
Yeah. Thank you, and you as well. I hope you get that long-awaited and long overdue sabbatical.
Fingers crossed.
Two of them. The mini one first and the big one after.
Fingers crossed, David.
Yeah. I got both fingers crossed, brother. In
you,
DX fashion.
Yes,
okay.
right.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on, brother.
All right, take care of yourself. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Big thank you to David Sahadi. His book, Backstage Pass, Tales from Beyond the Squared Circle, is available now from ECW Press. And thank you to all of you for listening to the show this week. Until next time, be well.